We're in the Nevada desert on the Nevada Outdoorsmen and Wheelchairs hunt. Last week, Mike and Ricky were successful, but we still have 2 hunters to go. They're out in the field, they're on an antelope. Let's see what happens. Growing up ranching is a simple life. It taught me values crucial to carrying on our heritage. Living off the land and taking care of the animals on it was part of life. From the mountains in Montana, the deer stands in Texas, to the plains of Africa, I have been blessed to go on these great adventures. This is where we practice conservation. Hunting and fishing plays a major part in this effort. Being out here with my family, my friends, is what makes memories that will carry me through my lifetime. I'm just a simple blue-collar guy with a passion for the outdoors, and I want to bring that to you. Elko County just does so much for wildlife and the habitat, and it's such an amazing place to come hunt. You know, we've got the Ruby Mountains right here. That's where I grew up. The TS Ranch just is home to so many species of wildlife. Newmont pumps their excess water out in the desert, and there was nothing there but dust. And now there's alfalfa, there's crops, there's water for these animals. They're really changing the habitat, and what that does is it creates opportunity. Opportunity for sportsmen, and especially Nevada Outdoorsmen and Wheelchairs.
It was incredible, just driving out there, you just kind of get all those emotions like, okay, this is what hunting's about. It's awesome. You're taking this dirt road out, got the washboard jiggles, and everything is blowing through. You know, dust is coming up in the truck, and we're like, I got all the windows up. So we got out there, and finally, you know, we all split off, all these different trucks depending on where you're going, and they're looking for you, we're looking for them. Sure enough, we spot one, and it's probably about 200 yards off, with about probably about a dozen doe or so. So I grew up actually out of Reno, and grew up just in a normal household, and had a dad. Was in the military for a few years, and he kind of introduced me to hunting. And when I started doing that, I started going out with my buddies and doing all those fun things, and that's really kind of how I got involved with the outdoors. Was when I was younger, we'd always go fishing. So fishing, hunting, doing things like that. And then throughout my youth, I kind of stopped hunting for a little bit, but then I got reintroduced with my buddies in high school and college. I actually went to college, graduated in '99. After '99, I got into the insurance industry in the professional world. And I had a couple buddies in the fire service in Reno area, and they ended up saying, come on, do a ride-along. So I came along, did a ride-along, and just fell in love with it, just instantaneously. So I started getting my medical stuff, my EMT intermediate, get my fire certs, and then I volunteered for about 4 or 5 years. After 4 or 5 years, got picked up by the city of Reno in '08. And then in 2010, I got laid off. In 2010, the economy turned down in Reno area, and sure enough, along comes a pink slip, and a few weeks later, poof, I was unemployed. And then fortunately, a few weeks later, poof, off came a job offer from the Nevada Air National Guard to work from their fire department on their base. Started cycling, did what's called the Death Ride. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But the Death Ride is a ride out of the Reno area. It's down by kind of like Topaz Lake, and it's 5 passes, 126 miles, and about 16,000 feet of climbing in a day. So I started training for that with my brother-in-law, and we just kind of did about a handful of those every few years. And that kind of really got me spurred on to do more of the longer distances. We did some centuries, some longer races, which are about 100 miles, and just got really involved with that. Met a couple other cycling buddies, and About 10, 15 years later, about 15 years later, we just got more active in the longer distances. 2014, I signed up for what's called Levi Gran Fondo. Levi Gran Fondo is a cycling run that's in the Napa area. It's a century. And I was training for it. I got off shift on a Friday and got on my bike after I kissed the kids goodbye for going to school. Rode up, followed them on the bus, followed them past the school, and rode on out. Did about 60 miles, about 65 miles on a 75 mile ride. And I came around a corner and there was a landscape trailer in a bike lane. And the landscape trailer was bigger than I was, and the lug nut rule won. And I went head first into the back of the landscape trailer and broke my thoracic 2, which is about right here, to thoracic 7, and just shattered them all. So I ended up being paralyzed. That was in September of 14, and spent 2 months in rehab. Got back on the bike about 6 months later, but I was on a hand bike. A friend of ours, another pair in town, gave me a hand bike to ride. Out riding on in June. My wife was just finishing her last week of school. She's a teacher, and sure enough, it was a Monday about 9:30, going up a mountain in a bike lane again, and got hit by a car. And that's what actually fractured my L1. So now I consider myself a double para. So I've got 2 fracture points at 2 different points. Along with obviously that, I got other medical conditions, but you know what, it doesn't matter. I mean, the biggest thing is that I'm here for my boys. I can get outside, do what I want. My boys are at the ripe age to start introducing them to this stuff. So my 2 older boys, I have 3 boys. My 2 older boys are now, they got their hunter certification, and I'm actually headed out probably in 2 months to go on the first deer hunt with my oldest boy.
Blue Collar Adventures is brought to you by Taco Casa, real fresh, real food, real good. Vortex Optics, the force of optics.
Well, off goes the buck. Okay, so we back up, we go around. About an hour later, we're working on them again, and we find the buck again, and they didn't go very far, maybe half a mile. So we circle back around, and you know, ironically enough, we're back on this buck, and oh, we got 2 bucks. We got we call him Little Boy. So we got Little Boy, and then we got obviously Dad or Big Brother playing with all this doe. They start getting pissed off at each other, and they're running around, just chasing each other. I'm like, well, okay, maybe he'll get closer. And the does are over on the side, just chilling, just watching these 2 boys play around, and the big daddy or big brother ends up kind of nicking the little one, and the little one's just pissing the old man off.
Big Daddy gonna work the little boy home.
Matt calls us over and says, hey, we got your big guy over here. And we're like, great. So we mosey on around, and I see Matt's truck, and I go ahead and start driving up, and I'm like, I don't see it. And he's like, it's 250, 300 yards off, straight off to the, let's say, the north side. And so there's 4 of us in my truck. We're scanning, we're looking, nothing to be seen. Comes in, and we back up, and we scoot out, and we drive through the grass, maybe 50, 80 yards out. And Matt walks out, he's like, you're going the wrong direction. And we got him on a cell phone. He's walking out, and he's on a cell phone, and we're like, you're going in the wrong direction. You said he was right off this point. He's like, no, you want to go between this power pole and this power pole. Jay's like, I got him. I'm like, got him? Where is he? Somebody's got to tell me where this thing is so I can get a good sight on it. And sure enough, he just bed down the grass, and all you could see were his antlers. He stands up. And sure enough, he stands up and I side him in, and I sit there and I breathe and I breathe and I look, you know, I talk to Jay and I'm like, hey Jay, you got him? He's like, yep, we got him. So gave it about maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and
Yeah.
50 shot and I miss it. I think to myself, you have got to be kidding me. In about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden the doe come back and milling around the buck, and sure enough he stands back up, and all of a sudden the does are behind him. I'm like, well, I'm not going to shoot now. She's clear, so he starts kind of not galloping, but just kind of just trotting. And sure enough, he's chasing, trying to probably corral his girls up again, and all of a sudden, one of the girls stops, buck stops.
Sniff that and go. No. You smoked him, he's down.
Mike says, oh, you missed him again. I'm like, oh, no, not again. And all of a sudden, Jay's like, no, you got him, you got him.
Blue Collar Adventures is brought to you by Carbon Express, Traeger Wood Pellet Grills, Cinnamon Creek Ranch Ultimate Archery, Newmont Mining Corporation, demonstrating leadership and safety and stewardship of the environment. Nature Blinds, the most realistic hunting blinds on the planet. Spot Hog, the world's toughest archery products.
We get out there and it's just such an opportunity that you get. There's something about it when you're finally got your animal down, and you get, it's just to me it's a heart bond between that animal and yourself, knowing that to some extent you're feeding your family, you're doing what you love, you're out in nature, you're living life. It's literally about life for me. And you know, after being in my accident, I've gotten a different perspective on life and trying to make the best out of life, whether you're, you know, paralyzed or whatever it may be, that you're doing the best you can with what you have, and having the opportunity to, if you take a life, you still got an opportunity to kind of perpetuate that forward by sharing it with friends and being around people you care about and just sharing the overall experience. That's what it's all about.
Man, buddy from the fire department, been with me the whole time. He actually applied for me, and to do it with him is an honor. He was able to make everything happen, and this is why I'm here. Because people care. People care, whether it's Mike or Matt or Mike or Maddie or anybody. It's all about friendships and caring and helping, making things happen for people who can't help themselves, and not being afraid to ask for help. I know I couldn't do this without everybody here. And the program itself is just a phenomenal experience, making things happen.
We borrowed Joe Doucette from Endow. which is kind of part of the big fishing game. He was able to take a day off, come out. He's an excellent cook, good cameraman. So he volunteered for the day to go out with Kim. She's just having trouble making everything fall in place before the antelope leaves.
Can you get on?
Yeah.
Oops, he's running.
I got my first BB gun at 8 years old. I think that was the standard age and rule for our family to get a BB gun. So it was a big moment, you know, one of those rites of passage type of things. I tried to kill several squirrels. I'm not sure if I ever actually managed it. It was really important to us because we didn't have a lot of money, so we went hunting. It wasn't just for the fun of it. It wasn't just for the sport. It was for the food. I hunted a little with my husband when we got married, but with the kids' activities, it just got, kind of gets away from you. You get a little busy and all that. And then after I was injured, I didn't go out and hunt and shoot because it was, very difficult to get out there. Danced and swam when I was younger and danced, and then I kept dancing all through. And then later, my mom started doing triathlons, so she once asked me to swim for her team. And so my brother and my mom and I did it, and my brother got us disqualified on the bike because he couldn't finish. But we did. And so I just started doing triathlons and running, swimming, biking, and one day I was out practicing because I had just done a 100-mile bike on Saturday. First time I'd ever done that too. And I had to get out on Thursday to try to get my legs and muscles all hopefully back to normal after that big event. And I had some stuff to do that weekend with my son at a swim meet, and so I was out there riding by myself on a Thursday, and a lady decided that stop sign didn't mean stop. And she pulled out in front of me, and I crashed and broke my T12 vertebrae.
Blue Collar Adventures is brought to you by
Glacier, simply the world's finest. Wicked Tree Gear. Tecamati.
Huskama Optics, Stealth Cameras, Fleer Hunting and Outdoors, Kuyu Ultralight Hunting.
It was probably a lot easier for me. I'm not the type to get very depressed. I had my days, of course, but I'm not the type to wallow, and I hate sitting around the house, and I like to be around people. So basically, I just got out there. I think the first time I got back into the triathlon scene, I'd been going down to Salt Lake for physical therapy at a place called NeuroWorks, and they have interns there, and one of the interns from the University of Utah was going to do this triathlon up here for her first time, and she'd never done one before. And she got in the water, in the open water, and just freaked out, and she says, I can't do that. And so I told her I'd do it for her because I had been swimming and I knew I could do it. And so I did that with her, and we got second, I believe, on our team. And from then on, I just kind of wanted to do it. And I also got a grant for a racing chair. So the last few years, I've done a two-man team, and I do the swim, and I do the run with my racing chair, and then I have a friend bike for me. A couple of times I've done it as a para team with another hand biker, but I just don't like to sit around.
Still there. You see the haystack out there coming up? Way out there? He's right.
Actually,
Oh, I see him. Okay, I got it. Well, I was kind of hoping it didn't happen too quick because I thought it'd be a little anticlimactic, and then it really didn't happen too quick. We didn't hardly see anything that morning.
It's afternoon, and we can't give up on Kim. We're going to go back to the pivots. Joe had to go back to town, so Chris and I jump in, and we're headed to the pivot to help Kim get her antelope. And we get on a couple, and they either drop in the canyon or they're too far. They don't give us a shot. They're running. That's what antelope do generally. And we had spotted one on the way in. He was a nice buck. He wasn't quite as big as some of the other ones, but he's a nice mature buck. So we decided to go take the opportunity, take what Nevada gives us, and we go after this buck in the pivot. the antelope's getting out there a little further. So I take a break from the camera and I'm trying to be helpful, and I go to range and I hear the shot, I hear the report. She made a perfect shot. I don't get it on film, but the main thing we're here for is to get her antelope. Way to go, way to go. Your cameraman blew it. I filmed everything, and then right there I tried to move and you shot and got him.
Sorry.
We got him. That's awesome. That's all that matters.
Now I want to see him. This is probably as close as we've been in a long time. So I was like, yeah, you did it. You came and did what you accomplished. So it was just really neat to see him, and I was really proud of my shot when I saw where I shot him, because I didn't ruin a lot of meat. I guess that's been ingrained since my childhood is, you know, you don't want to ruin that meat because we need that meat. So it's very important. And meat, the deer and antelope and elk that we eat is so much better than the beef you can buy in the store. It's not even funny. Like last night I was so overwhelmed I couldn't even think about what to say. So it's really great having all this help and volunteerism. It's unbelievable.
It takes a village to do this. We've got guys from Reno, we've got guys from Elko, we've got guys from Eureka, and we all come together for one common cause.
You know, you got to go through things, you can't go around. And I think that's the whole motto that I think a lot of disabled individuals go through is you have to find something to focus on.